Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Stories. You get a house and you get a house and you get a house. We're talking about OPRA, but not the OPRA that you think we're talking about, right? OPRA. Hey, Michelle, what is OPRA? No H.
Open records. So basically, you can get this particular OPRA for anything that has permits open.
Open Public Records Act.
Correct.
OPRA, right? So it's pretty much what it sounds like, right? Open Public Records Act. So why is that something that sometimes comes up in our real estate world?
How many times have you been to a house where something has been changed? A kitchen, a garage renovation, new water heater, new HVAC system, and then you have to question whether or not all those permits have been closed.
Yeah, exactly. Or were they even opened in the first place?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, in my experience, what people or buyers, I should say, get more concerned about are like the bigger things, right? People aren't always necessarily that concerned about, it's a 40-year-old house and the heater's been updated. Okay, whatever. You're supposed to have a permit, but that often is not significant enough to trigger the concerns, but you
Right.
hinted at it already. The concerns get triggered where, hey, wasn't this room a garage based on the model of this house? And now it's a den. I wonder if they did this with township approvals.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that everybody does, but actually is in a lot of cases we find that, especially if people have been in their homes a long time, they didn't even know any different, right? Or the basement's finished. I've had that happen over the years where they're like, yeah, you know what? It took me a couple of years, but I finished my basement 20 years ago.
DIY.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they did a great job and,
Right.
and it's all up to code, but I needed a permit for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that, sometimes it's a small addition on the house. That's not good at all.
How about a shed? I mean,
Yeah, shed could come up. We had one last summer, right? That was the location of the shed on the lot, and was there a variance granted or not? So it started with an OPRA request
right.
for the township to pull the public records. So, what's cool is for you guys watching this, the Open Public Records Act is a pretty cool piece. So if you're curious about a house, you don't need to go in there with a contract of sale or, your real estate agent's business card. You can, in most cases, fill out the form online and it's public record. So anyone can request it and get a sense of the history of, I guess, formal documentation about that house, right? I guess, for significant changes. And the town has 7 business days to respond to your request. That's the way the law or rule is written, 7 business days to respond. It doesn't mean they'll have all of your information in 7 days necessarily, depending on how they're set up, but they do have to acknowledge it and respond to it. But in our situation, we find that it doesn't take very long, right?
Generally quick.
Yeah.
I've gotten in 5 minutes. I've gotten in a couple of days. It all depends on the township.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, most of the records are in electronic files at the township offices. So whatever magic buttons they have to push in the background to kind of pull all this information, they can pull it, and it's not a big deal. Now, I've also run into situations where sometimes something got missed in the documentation on the township, but the owner of that property has the documentation. I've seen that too, especially if it's old.
I ran into that because, and again, I think the situation was a little bit different because it was a HUD house prior.
Okay.
So there may not have been, like we were talking about, that documentation, the correct documentation, for the township. And then all of a sudden we're selling the house. We're like, uh-oh, got to get those permits done.
Yeah, exactly. And, it is what it is. I just had one. I was on a listing appointment a few weeks ago, and actually it was a garage that had been converted to living space. They extended the family room basically into the garage, or what was the garage. And they've owned the home for 30, 40 years, like forever, right? And the homeowner was like, oh, I need a permit for that,
Surprise.
And I'm like, well, and in that particular town also, I said, Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Some towns, I mean, every town's going to need it. This particular town, I said, you got to be proactive with this town.
More
Uh,
difficult.
yeah, some towns are just really tough. I said, they're not going to yell at you. They're not going to smack you on the hand, but you're going to have to file for the permit. You're going to have to fill out some paperwork. They're going to have to do some inspections, and hopefully everything's okay, you
And
know?
spend some money, because you definitely have to spend money if you need those permits closed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you might have to have contractors sign off on stuff depending on the nature of what was done. So there's a lot of variables there, but the good news is, you know, and I bet a lot of you guys watching this didn't know about this. OPRA, OPRA, the Open Public Records Act can be extremely helpful in trying to figure out, hey, you know, was this done properly, right? Yeah. All right, everybody.
Selling a house is kind of what we need, because we don't want any little hiccups at the end.
No, we definitely don't. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care.